Why should this matter to people outside of Iran? What would the impact of a democratic Iran with your father as the transitional leader have on them and the rest of the world?
Yeah, this isn't just about freeing Iranians. It's about removing a pressure point that has distorted global politics for nearly half a century. It's about whether the world chooses to confront an ideology that has been exported through violence, coercion, and fear, or whether we allow it to entrench itself further. So for decades, this regime's funded terror, destabilized entire regions, and worked deliberately to export a radical ideology that is fundamentally opposed to democracy, human rights, and basic human dignity. And that doesn't stay contained within borders. It spreads through money, through networks, through influence. And if the regime's apparatus is dismantled today, it would represent more than political change. It would be a decisive victory for the values the free world claims to stand for. So freedom of belief, equality, accountability, the right for people to choose their own future, tolerance. But history shows us something else too, which is that these movements, when silence feels easier than action, when people assume someone else will step in, or that the threat is too distant to matter, and later look back and realize that, that was the moment to speak up, the moment to act, and it passed. And we're living in one of those moments now, and we need to be aware of it. If this regime is allowed to remain in power after everything that it's done in the past few weeks and over the past few years, and really since it took power, if it continues to fund terror, export this ideology unchecked, the consequences don't stop in Iran. They come to our doorstep. And the world that follows could be more authoritarian, more radicalized, and far less free than the one we know today. So it's not about fear, it's about responsibility, and recognizing that defending freedom sometimes means acting before the cost of inaction becomes irreversible. So let's not be the generation that looks back and says we saw it coming and stayed silent. And beyond what we stand to save ourselves from, there is so much to gain. A free and democratic Iran would mean the end of a regime that has spent decades exporting this terror and been a major source of nuclear escalation and required constant U.S. military engagement in the Middle East. It would mean fewer wars, stronger global markets, the removal of one of the central engines of global tension. And in its place would stand a nation that's capable of actually becoming a pillar of regional cooperation, economic growth, and cultural exchange. And it would be, imagine a Middle East where Iran helps lead efforts in diplomacy, trade, energy security, climate resilience, or regional development. It would fundamentally also change relationships across the Middle East, making peace between Iran, its Arab neighbors, Israel, and the United States not only possible, but actually durable. And when Iran stops exporting fear and starts exporting, cooperation, the world becomes safer literally overnight.